In 1824, James Monroe chose not to run for re-election. After all, if 8 years had been good enough for George Washington, 8 years was good enough for James Monroe. And suddenly there was a contest to see who would follow him. Indeed, 5 prominent men ran for election, or rather stood for election. At that time, it was viewed as inappropriate, even undignified, almost like begging for a presidential candidate to actively campaign for himself. Although certainly one made it known that one would be willing to accept the votes of presidential electors. But we would not see a major candidate actively campaign on his own behalf until 1896, and he would lose. So, 5 prominent men were obvious candidates, although in the end, one of them, the Secretary of War, John C. Calhoun, chose not to seek the presidency and instead sought the vice presidency alongside not one, but 2 of the rival candidates for the presidency, party politics still being so fluid, or really, theoretically, non-existent. The leading candidate, perhaps, was the Secretary of State, John Quincy Adams. Indeed, almost every president to that point had been Secretary of State for a previous president. Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe had all been Secretaries of State in their turn. And John Quincy Adams, as Secretary of State, an accomplished diplomat, the son of a former president, seemed an obvious candidate with quite a bit of support. The Secretary of the Treasury, William Crawford of Georgia, also had a great deal of support. So did the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Henry Clay of Kentucky, one of the war hawks from the West who had promoted the War of 1812 in the name of territorial expansion. He had the official support of Kentucky and Tennessee, although there was also a Tennessee in the running, the hero of New Orleans, Andrew Jackson, who had been prominent in Tennessee politics since the 1790s, including playing a role in creating Tennessee's state constitution and serving as Tennessee's first congressman and later one of our early senators. Of course, he was a war hero from the War of 1812, defeating the Creek Indians at the Battle of Horseshoe Bend, the British in the Battle of New Orleans. Later, he defeated the Seminole and essentially forced Spain to sell Florida to the United States. And in the end, he had the greatest popular support, which was beginning to matter as some states were awarding presidential electors based on the popular vote of the state and allowing more and more people to vote, as many states abolished or never created property qualifications in the first place, particularly on the West. And for many people on the frontier, Andrew Jackson was seen as the hero of the common man. So he got the most popular votes and the most electoral votes, but not a majority in either case, which is to say he did not get over half of the electoral vote. And so if no one gets over half, the decision goes to the House of Representatives, who must choose among the top 3 candidates, which were Andrew Jackson,